All right. Good morning, everyone. We're gonna get going here. All right. Friday. Oh, sorry about that. Friday evening session. In the U.S., you can see us. We managed to grind up to positive. I think we were trading up 4 or 5 points in the S&P actually for a moment there. We started to drift back down. All of a sudden, in the last hour, we absolutely got annihilated. I think we fell about 1.5% on most of the major indexes in the last hour of the day, which is really, really significant. Something that I think we got to see if there's actually can be some follow through today. We've pretty much been one day up, one day down, kind of activity in the market recently. So pay real attention to that today. I don't necessarily just think you got to come in and sell it best. We had a lot of data that's out this week that I think is really, really going to be significant. So we'll watch and see what happens there. But it was the first time, and I think in years, that the S&P's actually had a gain for the month, and not only a gain, but it was a great gain, up 2% for the month, and that was with the S&P giving up 1.5% on the last day. So incredible month for the month of May, capping off an incredible start to the year. I think we obviously are due for a correction at some point, but I think we've got to be patient to watch and see if this thing can unfold. All right, Asian markets finally all kind of turned down here toward the very end of the session. I know some of them were hanging in there. We had the Hang Seng and the Chinese market that were hanging in. I think the Chinese market still finished the day up. But they had Chinese HSBC PMI numbers that were out this morning that were worse than expected, signaling contraction. We also had PMI numbers kind of across the region. We'll go over those in just a minute. And they were all actually quite relatively weak. So I'm kind of interested in why the commodities, physical commodities, are up a little bit this morning. As PMI numbers, I would have thought they would have been down a little bit more, but something to watch really closely today. We did have light sweet crude, Brent, that briefly dipped below $100 this morning, and I think that's going to be a big level to watch out for. If we can drop 100 and hold below 100, I think it'll be significant. All right. We've got something I popped in there just now, something I was looking at over the weekend. Is the NYSE margin debt versus the S&P 500 chart. Now this is going all the way back to, if you guys can't see it really well, it's going all the way back to the 96, and you can see here how the correlation is between the margin that guys are using in the markets versus what's actually happening in the markets, and it's absolutely incredible the correlation that we can see there over the past few years run. What's really amazing is you can see we're popping into all-time highs right now in terms of margin debt on the NYSE. You got to remember that obviously the index is a little bit higher right now, so relative maybe we're still a little bit off of the peaks in terms of the relative numbers on the NYSE margin debt, but something I think we've got to be very wary of. We keep saying that everyone's expecting this pullback, yet these the margin levels are as high as they've been in years. So I think there could be a little bit of an unwind. I specifically think that could be led by the Japanese yen. If it drops below 100 or goes above 100, I think you could really start to see a little bit of that leverage start to unwind, because guys have been using that carry trade for a long time now. All right, stocks going ex-div today. We've got LHC, SPP, and PPC. Watch out for those today. The SPAR one's quite reasonable, and so is the Life Healthcare's. Interesting note out from SocGen and UBS this morning. They say an end to the emerging market currency bull run. Also had a lot of notes out over the weekend, not just in the currency runs, but also from an equity market perspective. A lot of these guys, there was 2 or 3 strategists. I know B of A Merrill, a couple of the others came out on the weekend saying that they think that this is going to be a turning point in emerging markets, and I think emerging markets may have seen highs for the year even. I saw one strategist said so. just keep that in mind. We could start to see a little bit of a shift, especially with the growth being as low as it is here at the moment. All right, Mr. Price was raised to overweight today versus equal weight at Barclays. Interesting considering they such a big importer. All right, like we said earlier, we had Chinese manufacturing PMI numbers on the 1st of January. Then today we had the HSBC manufacturing PMI, which is the same thing, essentially focused a little bit more on small and medium-sized companies, and probably a lot more accurate because it's not controlled by the Chinese government. And that number was weaker, so I think we take a little bit more cognizance of that one. We had I don't know why they're not up there, but we also had numbers out of Vietnam and a couple other regions over in Asia that were lighter this morning on the PMI numbers. We've got Italian, French, German, UK, and European PMI numbers out later. And then we've also got a local PMI number as well. So there's a lot of action there between 9:45 and 11 o'clock. Let's just be wary of that, especially I think the German number and the European number. So 9:55 and 10 o'clock. Keep your eye out for that one locally at 11 o'clock. And then we've got construction spending and ISM manufacturing in the U.S. later today in the States. Okay, let's jump out and see the maps. All right. First thing I want to look at is a 30 minute of the S&P. What I wanted to show here is when we're dropping a really significant technical level, and you guys know what it looks like leading up into this, so I'll just start it at a 30-day. Right here at 1637, very significant technical level that we breached and closed below. So we were kind of looking like we were flagging for a little bit. But now we've broken support here. I don't really see any support, to be honest with you, until down here. I think that's 1598. So my call is that this is very likely that we could trade down to these numbers, and the breakdown from this sort of pattern here would put us right down close to around those levels anyway. So let's watch it over the next session or two. I think if we can hold below 1637 today on the S&P, that we could trade down to around 1598, which would be a nice little correction from the top, and maybe all that we get. All right, let's look at NASPERS. NASPERS I wanted to show. Just 1 second. NASPERS you can see there. Sorry, let me shorten this up a little bit. Okay, NASPERS, you can see the little dot here. If you see that little dot right above that little finger that I've got there, it's highlighting it right now. That's actually where we closed, because we did close up in the auction. You can see there, kind of making almost potentially a little bit of a triple top here. If we break out from this level, I would say call it 1747 to get above this level today. Then we could have a good, call it $30 of upside left on NASPERS. I think this is going to be a really important level that we're going to watch going forward to 1747. Let's keep that one in mind today. I don't necessarily expect it to open up, but that thing, you never know. It always rallies toward the end of the day, it seems like. Okay, MTN actually really broke out of a flag pattern as of the close. You can see here we've been kind of watching this thing just come up and test this little this little trend line that's been sloping downward since the middle of the month. Every day it's kind of coming up and testing it, and then it would fail, come back down to the high to mid 170s. We did just break out of that on Friday. I'm not overly bullish on this thing, but this thing does have at least generate some revenue from offshore. So you can see there out of that little flag pattern there. Watch this one closely. If we can hold on to this, I think we can continue to move higher in MTN. All right, MPLATs. I want to show MPLATs. I'm actually going to back out all the way to a year chart here, so you can really see what's going on here. We've kind of bounced up and tested this level we're talking about on a closing basis. I know there was one close below this level, but right here at around 330, we closed at 339. This is really this first level of major resistance, and MPLATs. I'd like to watch this one really, really closely this morning. I think if we can get up through here, we've got more upside left. But if not, I think this could be a classic little fail of of the breakdown level. You could see a nice little correction from here. So watch implants around 330. Grinrod, actually show this on a 30-day, and you can see here we're kind of breaking support. We're breaking support here on a 30-day, almost a little bit of a flag pattern. You can see at about 2040, which is where we've dropped from, and you can see there, I think possibly even come down all the way and test sort of what previous support was back here at about, around maybe 1960. Not a whole lot in this one, but it's just, especially for the guys that are active and trading this kind of thing intraday, could have a little bit more downside left on Grinrod. If you haven't been paying attention to it, the Baltic Dry has kind of been falling on a daily basis. For the last little while, we're starting to look quite heavy in the Baltic Dry, like we can trade down almost to lows. So, watch that one closely. The next one I'm going to show is Woolies. I think we had tweeted this one on Friday. We also talked about it going into the day. We tweeted it as it was happening. Really, this sort of this little risk range here that we had talked about came perfectly into line there. You see how we wicked down. We actually got below it for maybe 10 minutes, which is 71.50. The bottom of that line there is about 71.50. And we managed to hold on to it, and on a closing basis, we closed above sort of lateral resistance, or right at lateral resistance at around 72.50, 72.60. And I think that this is, it's been the best retailer by miles for the last few months. I don't see any reason why this wouldn't hold on this first test and give us a nice little bounce up. So watch this one closely. Yesterday could have been the start, or Friday could have been the start of us having some more legs to the upside. The last one I'm going to show is going to be Rio on the LSE, which is really coming down to test support, almost looking like it's making a bit of a bear flag here. And I think that one down day out of this thing. And I think we could break to new lows. I would say below 28 would really trigger it, and I think there could be a few pounds of downside on the Rio if we can drop that. Also, just like to point out that some of the stocks, the Billies and Anglos and things like that, started to look quite heavy on Friday as well. So just watch those closely, and don't forget about all the stocks that we had that closed up, several percent on Friday, and the Morgan Stanley reweighting. And that's it for today, guys. Thanks a lot.